in this topic, let us see what was the limitations of the civil disobedience movement. Limitations here means which were the groups who did not participate in the civil disobedience movement. So the first group which did not participate in the civil disobedience movement was the untouchables. The untouchables called themselves as Dalits, and usually they were ignored by the Congress because Congress always supported the Satnamis. Satnamis means higher caste Hindus. So they don't want to make angry the Satnamis, so they never supported the Dalits. But the Mahatma Gandhi was always in favor of Dalits or untouchables. It was only the Congress who ignored the untouchables, but Gandhiji always supported them. He said that Swaraj would not come until unless untouchability is removed from the country. So to remove untouchability, he organized many programs, like he called them Harijans, he called the Dalits as Harijans, that means the children of God. He allowed them temple entry, he started a movement so that they can also enter the temple. Previously Dalits were not allowed to enter the temple or public wells, tanks, roads. These were the places where the Dalits were not allowed to go. But Gandhiji organized a campaign so that they can also go to all these places, schools, etc. Then he himself cleaned the toilets. Gandhiji himself cleaned the toilets, which was usually the work done by Bhangis, that means the lowest class, because this is considered as an untidy work. So he himself cleaned to set example to others that this will not make a person untouchable. So by cleaning toilets he set an example. Though Mahatma Gandhi has done so many social programs for the Dalits, but the Dalits were not satisfied by these social programs, because they always thought that their problems will be solved only if they are given representation in the politics. So they were keen to look on a different solution to their problems, and that solution they considered was political solution. And what they thought that they can get their problems removed only if they get reserved seats in the legislative councils. If they are also given representation in the council or reserved seats in the council, they will be able to solve their problem. Secondly, they wanted reserved seats in educational institutions also. Then they want a separate electorate. Separate electorate means an area where only Dalits will stand for election and only Dalits will vote for elections. So that is called a separate electorate. So Dalits wanted a separate electorate, and Dalits participation was very limited in the civil disobedience movement, especially in Maharashtra. Nagpur was an area where more Dalits were there. So there they did not participate in the civil disobedience movement because they wanted a political solution for their problems. Now Dr. B.R. Ambedkar emerged as a Dalit leader. So he was a lawyer. Then he represented the Dalits in the Round Table Conference. So when Round Table Conference was held in London, Mahatma Gandhi also went to London and Dr. B.R. Ambedkar also went to London. There, during the Round Table Conference, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar demanded for a separate electorate for the Dalits. And British were very happy to accept the demand of B.R. Ambedkar because they wanted to create a gap between different communities. So already they have created a gap between Hindus and Muslims. Now they wanted to create gap between the Hindus itself. So when upper caste and the lower caste, or the Mahatma Gandhi and Ambedkar were represented two different groups, they were very happy that this will lead to the division of Hindu society. So they were ready to accept Dr. B.R. Ambedkar's demand. But Gandhiji felt very bad because according to him, first India should get independence. After that we can solve the political problems of the Dalits. So he was reluctant to agree to the separate electorate demand of B.R. Ambedkar. So when the round table conference failed and they came back to India, Mahatma Gandhi wanted B.R. Ambedkar to refuse the demand of separate electorate. And so he started a fast, Mahatma Gandhi started a fast until death. Later on, all the leaders pressurized B.R. Ambedkar to call off his demand of separate electorate, and ultimately a pact was signed between Mahatma Gandhi and Dr. B.R. Ambedkar at Pune in September 1932, which is popularly known as Pune Pact. According to this pact, these reserved seats were given in provincial and legislative councils to the Dalits. Dalits were given reserved seats in the legislative and provincial councils. But the demand for separate electorate was denied, and instead of separate electorate, a general electorate was given to them. That means Dalits will stand for election, but the people who will vote in the election will be from all the class and community. That is called as general electorate. So voting by general electorate, but the people who are standing will be Dalits in some of the constituencies. So in that way, some reserved constituencies were created according to Pune Pact in 1930. We have already seen that Dalits were reluctant to participate in the civil disobedience movement. Now the second group, which was not interested to participate in the civil disobedience movement, was the Muslims. Now, what was the reason why Muslims were not interested? Muslims basically formed some political organizations, and after the decline of the non-cooperation movement and Khilafat movement, that means when Gandhiji withdrew the non-cooperation movement, so Khilafat movement was also withdrawn along with that. After that, the Muslims were not happy. They always viewed Congress as a Hindu religious nationalist group. They thought that the Congress is always supporting Hinduism. And some of the religious nationalist groups were also there, like Hindu Mahasabha also, which was not liked by the Muslims. So slowly the relation between Congress and the Muslim League worsened, and both the parties, that means the Hindus had their own nationalist groups like Hindu Mahasabha and the Muslims had Muslim League. So all of them started organizing their religious processions, which slowly turned into militant organizations. Then they clashed with each other. There were Hindu-Muslim riots in many places. So when many times such type of riots occurred, so after every riot, it created a distance between the Hindus and the Muslims. So slowly it deepened the distance. So for a long time, it was felt that there is no unity between Hindus and Muslims and we cannot reach into a unity. But by the year 1927, it started seeming as if there is little hope where the Hindus and Muslims can unite. So in 1927, the leader of Muslim League, Dr. Jinnah, he was specially demanding for a separate electorate for Muslims as was demanded by Dalits and B.R. Ambedkar. So they were also demanding separate electorate, which was not liked by the Hindus. So here Jinnah was ready to give up the demand of the separate electorate, but on condition that Muslims will be given assured seats in the Central Assembly, and they also wanted proportional representation according to the population. Like in some places of Bengal and Punjab, there were more Muslim population. So they wanted that the areas where more Muslim population is there, from there more members should be represented in the Central Legislative Assembly. So he was ready to give up the demand of separate electorate if these two demands are fulfilled. So the negotiation was about to be reached when the leader of Hindu Mahasabha, Jaikar, Mr. Jaikar, M.R. Jaikar, he opposed the demand of Jinnah and he was not ready to compromise with the Muslims. So ultimately the Hindus and Muslims could not unite with each other and the civil disobedience movement created an atmosphere of suspicion and distrust between the communities. So the participation of the Muslim political organizations were very limited in the civil disobedience movement. So till now we have seen what is civil disobedience movement, how it started with Salt March by Mahatma Gandhi, which are the different groups who participated and how did they took Swaraj or civil disobedience movement and which were the groups which did not participate in the civil disobedience movement, which is called as limitations of the civil disobedience. Now let us come to the last topic of this chapter, that is the sense of collective belonging. As the name of the chapter is nationalism in India, so nationalism can be brought by two ways. One by united struggle and one by cultural process. This we have already seen in the first chapter, nationalism in Europe also. There also we have studied that either by struggle or by cultural process nationalism can be brought. So in India also, united struggle is of course one of the reason for nationalism in India. But one more thing which united the people of India was culture. Culture includes folk songs, folklore, folk dances, folk songs, etc. So the identity of a nation should be related with Bharat Mata. In India, we considered the image of Bharat Mata as a common identification for all Indians. So this image of Bharat Mata brought a sense of collective belongingness among the people. And the first picture of Bharat Mata was painted by Bankim Chandra Chattopadhyay. Then apart from painting the image, he also composed a hymn, that means a song, in devotion to the Bharat Mata, and that song is popularly known as Vande Mataram, which is a hymn to the motherland. Later on, this poem or this Vande Mataram was included in his novel Anand Math also. Then apart from Bankim Chandra Chattopadhyay, who created an image of Bharat Mata, one more artist, Abanandrinath Tagore, who was very much moved by the Swadeshi movement, he also created a visual image of Bharat Mata. In Abanandrinath Tagore's image, he created Bharat Mata as an ascetic figure. You can see your textbook, there the picture of Bharat Mata by Abanandrinath Tagore is given with an ascetic figure, and the face expression is very calm, composed, divine and spiritual. So all the godly qualities are endowed in that picture. And it is considered that devotion to Bharat Mata is one of the evidence of one's nationalism. So the image of Bharat Mata helped in creating a sense of collective belongingness among the people. Then one more thing which created a sense of collective belongingness was the folklore. Folklore is actually the stories which the common people tell about the heroic people or the good people. So that is a true picture of traditional culture. Actually folklore is the true picture of the traditional culture of India. So Rabindranath Tagore took the initiative to collect the folklores. He collected ballads, nursery rhymes, myths which was prevalent in different parts of Bengal, and he composed it, collected and wrote it in the form of poems, which is called as folklore. Then in Madras also, one nationalist whose name was Natesha Shastri, he also composed folklores, and he collected the folklores from southern India, and he wrote a 4-volume book called Folklore of Southern India. So ultimately, through the example of folklore and image of Bharat Mata, we can come to the conclusion that these things were the most trustworthy manifestation of people's real thoughts and characteristics. So this ultimately helped in bringing the collective belongingness. Apart from image of Bharat Mata and revival of folklore, the one more method for creating a sense of collective belongingness was reinterpretation of history. Many of the Indians started thinking that history has to be retaught or taught differently, because at present the British has considered India as good for nothing, but then we had a glorious past, so some Indians wanted to revive that glorious past of India. Actually, British saw Indians as backward, primitive and incapable of governing themselves, and they thought that it was their moral duty to civilize the Indians. But the Indians know that they had a rich cultural background. So India looked back to discover their great achievements, and many people wrote books about the glorious past of India, about the art and architecture of India, then the importance of science and maths, then religion and culture, law and philosophy, craft, trade, which all flourished during the ancient period. So about these stories and writings were there by the great leaders. Then in the books they wrote that there was a good history of India which was later on declined because of the colonial rule. So they urged the readers, those writers urged the readers to take pride in India's glorious past, in the India's great achievements of the past, and the way the Indians tried or struggled to change their lives under the British rule. So when these books were written and published, and it was widely read by the people all over India, they created a sense of collective belongingness, a pride in the history of India, and a feeling of nationalism developed in India. Of course, all the methods which created nationalism in India were having some problems also. Like some of the communities felt that all these images and everything is related to a particular community, and so the other communities felt left out. But even then, overall we can say that culture brought collective belongingness and a feeling of nationalism in